For the August 2025 edition of Speak Out and Play, I will talk about how the basics are back, update you on Warfighter War and other things Warfighter in Warfighter Corner, let you know what I'm creating for the YouTube channel in the Works, and reveal the videos coming up in September 2025 on the Speak Out and Play YouTube channel, all on Speak Out and Play. Hello and welcome to Speak Out and Play, a monthly podcast for the Speak Out and Play YouTube channel. Thank you for being here. In each podcast, I will discuss my thoughts on the board gaming and wargaming hobby, let you know about Warfighter, which is my favorite game, and subject to more videos than any other on the channel. And I'll discuss what is happening in future video productions. Now, at the time that this podcast is being released, we are experiencing, in my part of the country, a phenomenon known as false fall. It's that time of year that usually happens later in September, but it's happening now when the temperatures cool to below normal after a blisteringly hot summer that provides the false hope that fall or autumn has arrived. False! This will last for a week, maybe, and then boom! It's going to go back to being way too hot. However, having said that, the temperatures will cool down at some point, which means that my video production for the channel will pick up, and I will discuss that later on. What I can say is that my production for the Seek Out and Play channel generally runs from mid-September to late April, with a few videos made in May and early June before the temperatures reach the boiling point. Because the summer is a relatively short time to not produce many videos, my desire to get an air conditioner big enough to cool the garage would just not be cost efficient at this time. Plus, I have produced videos early in the morning when the temperatures are merely blazing, as opposed to the inferno that often accompanies July, August, and early September where I live. But that could change, maybe. But for now, let's get on to the main topic for this edition of Speak Out and Play. As always, I have several topics I want to cover, but my rule on the podcast is to keep the negative to a minimum. That doesn't mean that negativity will not happen, far from it, but that I do not want an entire topic to be complaining about something. It was with that in mind, I was looking at the videos that I have presented on the channel since the first week of April 2019. I have posted at least one video every Wednesday since that time. That's unreal. That is a very long run, all things considered, especially for a one-person operation like me. And for those who have YouTube channels, you get a view of what videos are the most watched for that day or week. And one video that keeps popping up for me is how to pile shuffle, one of the first videos that I made. Yet all these years later, people still tune in to watch it. So I decided to go back to the basics and create a video that demonstrates pile shuffling again, along with a couple of other common forms of shuffling. Not exactly a video of how to win a multiplayer game, but hey, perhaps it is needed. In searching to broaden out the topics of my videos, going back to something simple like how to shuffle cards, I found rather interesting. I do not cover all the different methods, nor do I state a preference, but I felt it was a nice update to an old video without actually replacing the video, and it's something that I may do more in the future. Looking forward, the Seek Out and Play channel may be set in terms of Warfighter and rules videos, but the videos for the first week of each month are more open in terms of subject matter, while I will focus more on presenting overview of games like I did for Dune, presenting new games and expansions, and continuing my personal essay series. There are openings for other subjects. Now, I'm going to say, and this is going to sound rather negative, I'm going to say right off the bat that doesn't include either playthroughs or reviewing games at this time. The latter because I believe that to properly review a game, it needs to be played several times with different opponents, and for me that would take months, if not years, to do. And as for the former, I don't make playthrough videos because it's 10 times the effort, given how I make videos, for the same result as creating a 5-minute explanation video that does basically the same thing, in my honest opinion. I understand that the main defense of playthroughs is that it helps people get to know the game. But imagine being forced to sit silently as someone else takes 45 to 75 minutes to fully play a game for letting you in. Only with a playthrough video, they don't let you in. But there are other subjects that I would consider tackling, though, such as tactics and strategy videos. When I was growing up in the 1960s and 70s, I read The General, which was the Avalon Hill magazine, along with Moves, which was from SPI. And they often contained strategy articles. For example, there was an article for Soviet strategy in the Russian campaign called the Vpri Defense. Now, I know I'm probably mispronouncing it, but, that's the way I like to pronounce it, so it's going to be Vpri for me. And the article itself was naturally cause for much discussion, even more so when a series replay had the author of the defense watch his Soviet forces get absolutely annihilated. It was pretty hilarious, but also quite instructive, because you are putting yourself out there when you are advocating for a particular strategy in any game that is somewhat specific in nature. For example, it's one thing for me to say, use two-player soldiers when you can in playing Warfighter. That's pretty general, and most people accept that. And even the people that don't really accept that are not going to get into that big of a huff about it. But it's another thing to say, in this type of warfighter mission, you must carry this type of weapon, use that type of equipment, and have that skill set. Because when someone tries it, and inevitably it does not work, you're probably going to get a lot of flack. No, you will get a lot of flack for that. However, if you have a YouTube channel, you should be getting some flack for something like that. And since I get flack for all sorts of things, that's something I might consider. Now, another subject that I might revisit, again going back to basics for my channel, is doing radio plays. Now, I gave up doing radio plays because they are quite time consuming. And what a radio play is that where I play out a mission of Warfighter usually, although it can be another game, and then I create a story based on that, usually a first-person point of view story, and present it as a traditional radio play. It is 10 times the effort compared to just maybe showing the game or just doing a 5-minute explanation of what happened. Now, I still do a radio play every year for my Attack of the Mutants, which I play, and given how many people watch that video, it kind of proves my point that it may not be worth it. However, with advancements to AI, creating radio plays with more visual appeal is now closer than ever. I am experimenting around to see what can be done in that format. So, and I might give it the old college try for Attack of the Mutants coming up in October, which usually comes around Halloween. Now, I haven't decided, because there's a 5th Wednesday in October. I haven't decided if it's going to be a standalone video or if I'm going to incorporate it into the podcast, because it is a radio play. So we'll see about that. Anyway, if you have suggestions for other topics, then please leave them in the comments. Now, I can't promise that I'll do it, but I do appreciate the input, and hey, it could be something that I might pick up and do for the Seek Out and Play channel. And with that, let's move on to Warfighter Corner and see what's happening there. First and foremost, Warfighter War, the strategic version of the Warfighter system, was a success on Kickstarter. It raised over $43,000, which is a pretty good haul, all things considered. I say that because it is a new system based on an old system. However, it takes the tactical aspects of Warfighter to the strategic level. It is, I think, rather smartly based on World War II, which gives it more appeal, in my honest opinion. Now, when it comes out, I will do a series of videos on it, including how it works, unboxing the expansions, and the like. Whether it becomes like the tactical version of the World War II series and spawns even more expansions, we will have to wait and see. Since I've already gave a rundown about what the game is about in my previous podcast, you can go back and check that out on Buzzsprout, Spotify, or on my YouTube channel. So I will leave Warfighter War here. I am not aware of what additions to Warfighter are coming out from DVG in the near future. There are openings for terms in terms of new core sets, such as one dedicated to the Cold War, to complement the Vietnam War set. In the plans for several years is the release of a near-future Warfighter set, which could have futuristic weapons in a science fiction setting. There is also Warfighter Ninja or Warfighter Samurai, I'm not really sure. I can't remember which one it is, but it is set in that era of Japan. And I've heard rumors that that is being worked on, although I don't know how close to completion that is. Now, that does sound really interesting, and it would be a nice variation on the Warfighter system. As far as expansions goes, Battle Pack number 4 will probably be out at the end of the year or perhaps early next year. I'm not quite sure. I do know that it's been sent off to the printers. As for any other expansions, I should say, I have not heard. So what I will give you is my wish list for future offerings of Warfighter from DVG. Again, I have no idea if these are in the works, so to speak, from the company. But if they decide to fulfill my wishes, this is what I would ask for. The first thing is to complete the World War II tactical core sets. Now, it's been a few years since we've had a new core set for the World War II era. Currently, we have Europe, Pacific, North Africa, and the Mediterranean. I've enjoyed all 4 immensely, but there are at least 2 theaters of war which I feel need to be addressed: Russia and China, Burma, India, or the Far East Theater. While we have expansions for the Russians and Chinese, the number of missions just isn't enough. And while you can substitute some European missions, which might be close for the Russians, it's just not the same as having dedicated Russian missions and locations and a core set. Also, the terrain of the Far East tended to be far different in many locations compared to the jungle locations in the Pacific core set and expansions. And while we have the British and the Gurkhas, we still need the Indian and Thai soldiers that fought in the China, Burma, India theater. The Far East theater, or China, Burma, India, was enormous, and it covered a wide range of terrain that needs a core set, in my honest opinion. Now, again, I have no idea if they're being worked on, if there are plans for them, but if they were asking me what I'd like to see, that's what I'd like to see. Number 2, add squad soldiers to Warfighter Chittor. Now, I know. The rule book for Warfighter Chittor does not include squad soldiers, so this is a very unlikely addition, to say the least. But the reason why I'm asking for squad soldiers is that they would add more color and variation to the game for very little in terms of new rules or complexity. Squad soldiers flesh out the teams, provide expendables for the mission, and can sometimes be the heroes when they do something unexpected. Like when I fire with a squad soldier and roll a 1 to defeat cover, and another 1 which hits and stops a monster that I thought was going to eat my team. That little squad soldier's a hero. Now, I've spoken about this before, but I've always been lukewarm to team soldiers. I understand that some people really like them, and I'm definitely for including them in the Warfighter set. However, when given the chance, I am most hesitant to use them because of their high cost. For that, I'd rather spend just a little bit more and get a player soldier instead, because I get the cards. And if I don't want to spend that much, then I get a non-player soldier or a squad soldier. So when it comes to a team soldier, I'm just not seeing their value. They just cost too much for me, okay? I'm cheap. I don't want to spend that much, which is why I normally skip team soldiers when playing World War II core sets. And when it comes to Warfighter Chittor, I would love to have a squad soldier alternative, because I would probably take it. Team soldiers to me are like the last kid waiting to get picked for the team. And I have nothing personal against them. But I'd rather pick someone else, even if I hurt their feelings. But that's just me. Now, the third suggestion is go adventuring. I'm sure I'm not the only one who has played the Warfighter system enough times to see its potential when it comes to creating alternate settings beyond warfare. Settings that fall within the realm of action-adventure, like a certain fedora-wearing, bullwhip-wielding archaeologist going on a mission deep underground to find fortune and glory. Now, there are 2 ways to go about this. The most obvious is to create a separate core set, but that does run the risk of becoming yet another standalone set that offers a few adventures and then runs out of gas rather quickly. Having said that, a standalone core set would provide maybe a different set of rules that may enhance such adventures. But, it's a trade-off. Now, a less risky alternative is to create expansions to a current set along the lines that introduce new adventures with a colorful set of characters and not adding new rules. Now, I'm sure the response from DVG is going to be, well, you design the expansion, Ken. You've got time. Send it to us and we'll consider printing it. So maybe I'll just have to do that, I guess. Roll up my sleeves and do it. Whether I do that or not, another thing that I will tell you is what is coming up production-wise for Seek Out and Play with the next segment in the works. As I mentioned earlier, cooler temperatures are arriving, which means I am getting back to my video production efforts for the channel. In this case, September is the month that I will script, shoot, edit, and schedule the videos for the third week of each month for 2026. Now, I've already completed Warfighter Week for 2026 with 2 videos scheduled for the second week of each month. The third week consists of videos that focus on explanations of specific rules or rule sections and optional rules for a wide variety of games other than Warfighter. Now, I've covered the games that I am making the rules for, which is Dune, War for Arrakis, Kingmaker, and the Undaunted series. The latter 2, those videos will be coming out later this year. In fact, you will see a video that does an overview of Kingmaker soon, either the first week of October or November. Now, that will be followed in 2026 by at least 2 rules videos for Dune, War for Arrakis, Kingmaker, and the Undaunted series. And that's going to take up, probably the first half of 2026. However, I am not ruling out more videos for up front after the end of the year, but I'm not ruling them in either. I have covered just about every aspect of that game, and at the end of the year, there will be a compilation video, your Christmas gift from me, of all the upfront rules videos that I have created. Now, I do have other games which I have not mentioned, and they will get rules videos as well. So the plan is by the end of September to have all the videos for the second, third, and fifth Wednesdays of each month for 2026. This allows me more time to create longer videos for the first week of each month, which will be produced over the fall and winter. Now, first week videos tend to be introductions, overviews, and how to play format, much like the one I made for Dune War for Arrakis. Kind of a one-stop shop video, so someone can not only get an idea of what the game is like, but if they have it, a brief explanation of how it works so they can start playing right away. Based on my experiences in shooting and putting together the videos for Dune and Kingmaker, future videos in this department are probably going to be a little bit shorter. In other words, probably about 7 to 8 minutes instead of 10 or 11. It's not just because I'm lazy, although I have to admit that's part of it, but rather that I usually get better results when I keep the videos to 2 pages of script, which tends to be around 7.5 minutes, give or take a minute. Now, if you're wondering why I haven't mentioned the fourth week of each month yet, it's because it's right here in the podcast for the fourth week, a video that I produce, podcast that I produce for the fourth week of each month, and that's where the video comes in for it. In addition, thanks to the quirk in the calendar, and something that you may heard me mention before, there are 4 months in which we have a 5th Wednesday. I normally create videos for out-of-print games for what I call Blast from the Past Week. I still have several out-of-print games that I have yet to cover at all or have only made perhaps like 1 video as an overview. A good example of that is Gunslinger, which I have made a few videos on and will at least get 1 more video for next year. I'm also considering a video or 2 on French Foreign Legion, an out-of-print game from Uquinto that offers plenty of things to talk about. That's a really interesting game. It is surprising, just going off on a tangent here, that Uquinto games are still so much out of print. It would be nice if somebody could buy them up, but, with economics, I kind of understand why that's not happening. Now, that pretty much covers everything for the foreseeable future, at least for the next month. for the Seek Out and Play channel, unless I change my mind, of course. So let's get to the videos that have already been produced and scheduled for September of 2025 in coming attractions. For the first week of September 2025, Seek Out and Play presents 3 shuffling techniques. A video that demonstrates 3 common shuffling techniques for randomizing cards: overhand, riffle, and pile. The video provides tips to keep your cards intact and how to protect them over time. It also addresses different types of cards and whether you need to sleeve them or not. For the second week of September 2025, Seek Out and Play presents 2 videos for Warfighter Week. The first video covers how to create Polish forces for the Warfighter 29 series. The video provides examples of teams that you can create to play Warfighter missions, starting with 29 resource points. The second video is an unboxing of Warfighter World War II expansion number 87, Gurkhas. The video covers the soldiers, vehicle, skills, events, and Gurkha hostiles that are present in the expansion. Plus, it provides a little history of the Gurkhas in terms of their military service. For the third week of September 2025, Seek Out and Play presents optional rule number 1 for Blitz in the East, presented by Vento Nuovo Games. The video covers Axis Minor Allies cooperation, including a breakdown of the units involved, and a brief description of Axis air unit participation and how to achieve air superiority when playing the game using optional rule number 1. Check out more videos when you subscribe to the Seek Out and Play YouTube channel. In addition, there is a monthly Speak Out and Play podcast, which you can find on Buzzsprout and Spotify. For just $2 per month, you can support the channel by becoming a Patreon member and see the videos and podcast 48 to 72 hours in advance. At least one new video is released every week on the Seek Out and Play YouTube channel, so I will see you next Wednesday. And that's it for the August 2025 edition of Speak Out and Play. Thank you for listening. The next podcast for Speak Out and Play will come out on Buzzsprout and Spotify on Monday, September 22nd, with a video version of the podcast on the Seek Out and Play YouTube channel on Wednesday, September 24th. I am, as always, open to suggestions for topics, although keep in mind that I do not have every game. However, I do have game systems such as Warfighter up front, and any game that I've covered on my channel is fair game, so to speak. For suggestions, please comment on the YouTube video of the podcast if you have any subjects that you would like to hear me discuss on Speak Out and Play. At least one new video is released each week on the Seek Out and Play YouTube channel, so I will see you next Wednesday. And if you see Sally, bring her all the way home.